it really, this whole subject never really doesn't get less crazy. And there's a lot of angles that I am interested in covering, and I just in general, not just here today, but in general. But the main reason that I'm in this at all is to protect women's sex-based rights. So that's really the main thing that I'm about. I mean, there's a lot to critique about this, as Jennifer said, as this industry. There's a lot to critique about the industry. There's a lot to critique linguistically about what's going on, with how language is being co-opted and coerced. This movement is a gender identity movement, and when you say it like gender identity, uh that isn't as triggering, or there's nothing off-putting about that. It is, I think it open it people are more open to that idea, even though of course feminists have been critiquing gender itself for centuries. But linguistically, when we use the words trans woman and trans man, it automatically sets up a little linguistic mindfuck. Because if you are talking about biological beings, if you are talking about humans, if you're talking about men and women, and you, for example, ask the questions, should men play women's sports? Should boys play girls' sports? Should boys be able to go after girls' scholarships? Should men be housed in women's prisons? If you ask those questions that way, it is really clear no. Absolutely not. Any thinking, person will say absolutely not, and that is clear. But when you start asking the question, should trans women be allowed to be housed in women's prisons? Should trans girls be allowed to compete in sports? Then it starts up this, sort of cognitive dissonance, little linguistic mindfuck, where you're like, wait, is there a special category of woman that I'm forgetting about? Somehow these men are somehow less their body or less men than other men. And it starts setting up these questions in your mind where all of a sudden you've left the category of biology, you've left the category of the physical, and you're talking about something else, and it really adds confusion, and people get confused, and the people who are, the kind of good liberals who are just wanting to be nice, that's how they hook you. And first of all, it's incredibly disingenuous the way that the ACLU, for example, sets up this question. When they ask it, they ask, should trans girls be allowed to compete? Well, first of all, that's incredibly disingenuous. There is no human being barred from competing in sports. When I posted on their page, I was like, congratulations, they're allowed to compete right now, today. But they sort of, they troll out these, like, sort of curly eyelashed, curly headed boys, who, and the little tagline is always, I just want to compete. I just want to compete. Well, he can compete in his own sex category right now, today. He's a boy, and he has gone through a male puberty, and there's no reason he should be stealing these scholarships from girls. And there is a team of girls right now. They're going to take it to the Supreme Court because they've lost scholarship opportunities. They're, these
And is
girls
that
were
at high
one.
school? Which one is that? Which story is that?
These are at the high school level.
Yeah.
They're the three girls from Connecticut, and
Is it the track and field one? Yeah.
yeah, they're runners. And they were, I believe the girls were 1, 2, and 3 in the state, and now there are two boys competing who have been 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2 every time because they're male, they're boys, they're
Yeah.
they're better, they're better at competing.
They couldn't
Uh,
place well in their own sex category. I mean, it's so very clear to me what they're doing, and it's just crazy to me that I don't know. Like, if I was competing with them as a woman, I'd be like, I mean, it sucks. It's like you want to compete and do what you want to do because you've trained for that and whatnot. And it's your
yeah,
space to do it. But I feel like they should just like all bow out and be like, y'all go have your fucking fun. Like, 'cause it's just
yeah,
ridiculous. It's
yeah.
so
I mean,
insulting. Look at the
they're
podium photos. The podium photos of these trans identifying males that are always to first place, shamelessly being like America or whatever. But look at the women. They're all. I mean, there's just like look at like all women, actual women on a podium, and they look like shining, and they're like locked arms, like yay, whatever. I mean, not always, but usually with the male as first place, the women are just like, I
Yeah,
mean,
they're
their
like
faces
they're
say
like
it all.
they're turned away from the camera. They
It's
won't they won't
shameful. It's
look at
just
him.
awful.
Yeah, it is. And it's just it's just absolutely ridiculous, and it's not fair. First of all,
No.
um, gender identity is an absolutely meaningless self-ascribed category. It is a self-claim that you make about yourself. And more, there are more and more quote unquote gender identities being come up with every day. There are hundreds of these categories. There are things like demi boy and agender and nutrigender and maverick gender. And there's literally, you go do a Google search. Anyone can go do a
I've
Google search.
stopped trying to keep up with it just because I'm like, who's supposed to
There's
actually like keep up with that? I don't.
there's hundreds. and
Yeah.
and what is ridiculous to me, is that, why would it be a good idea to segregate sports based on an identity? Like, should we segregate sports based on whether or not I'm a writer or a teacher? Like, why is an
True.
identity claim a good category for sports segregation, especially again when there are hundreds of category? Are demi boys going to have their own sports leagues? Are maverick genders going to, are agenders, are non-binaries going to have their own sports league? So that's one of my positions.
Wouldn't you think they would do that anyways? Like make their own transgender group? But of course not, because it doesn't affirm their
No, yeah,
identity or
it doesn't
fantasy.
validate. Well, and that's my other thing, is because most sportswomen themselves are gender nonconforming. So,
Hmm.
in fact,
Yeah.
like
That's true.
you have, more sportswomen, I would say, are very gender nonconforming themselves. Will have, the shorter haircuts, or not
Hmm.
shave, or not conform to kind of feminine beauty standards. I mean, these women are often some of the most nonconforming women that are there. So how are they the same, gender identity as men or boys who are doing the whole hyper femininity?
Yeah.
If
Very.
if in fact we are going by gender identity segregation, they're actually not even the same gender identity.
Yeah.
But the whole point is that that's a meaningless category. The
Of course.
physical always remains relevant.
Of course.
You
You can.
cannot be more or less of your body. And this whole idea that it's somehow about, T levels. Well, it's so much more than T levels. I mean, the whole
T as
male
in.
testosterone.
Yeah. Yeah.
um they always are like, the when they go on the estrogen, their T levels drop. Well, first of all, not significantly, but second of
Yeah.
all, even if we tossed that part aside, even if we tossed testosterone aside,
Mm.
the male skeletal structure, male grip strength, male larger heart and lungs, male better blood oxygenation, male faster heat dissipation,
Mm.
male better shoulders for throwing, better hips for running, larger feet for running. Any sport that involves running or throwing,
Mm.
the male literal skeleton is better at it.
Yeah.
So T
Yeah.
levels that doesn't even matter,
Of course
and
not. It's ridiculous. All of that sports thing it's crazy. I mean, I've had women that acquaintances be like, I'm anti-trans and all this stuff, and they're athletes, and I'm just like, how can you get to that level where you're like, yeah, you can come race against me? Like, how can you be that blind to like your ass is going to get whooped? Like,
yeah,
number one, it could be the worst male athlete. I mean, this is going to make people upset. Maybe not the worst, but not very good. And
yeah.
they'll fucking like sack your ass. Like,
Well, and I don't. There's now some. There's some there. We have Martina Navratilova. Navratilova.
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
She's definitely in support of women's sports. Of course,
Mhm.
she's been called a bigot and a turf and a transphobe because she supports women's sports. But there are other female athletes who are pro, trans women in sports, and it's really appalling to see. And
It's all about money, I think. If they're like, yeah, like that soccer woman, the Olympic thing, that was so upsetting. It's
well,
just all about money. They don't care. Like they already got the gold medal, so it's like, whatever. I don't need it anymore. Come join because I already got my shit. Bye. Like,
and
thanks, asshole.
the crazy thing about her is that right before they won, they are the best female soccer team out there. And right before they won, they did a scrimmage with a 15 and under boys team, 15 and under boys
Yeah.
team, and lost to 15
That's when
and
you know it's
under
like not
boys.
her saying that. It's all about
Yeah.
corp or whatever. Some sort of money, like the whole
Yeah.
Ellen Page thing.
Yeah. Oh God.
Totally, that's a fucking sham. Like if you read her story, like a coming out, I don't even know what you call that on Instagram. It just is so like copy paste. Here's what you need to put on your Instagram because they go into the natural. Here's this, suicide statisticsy thing. Like if you were actually like, say her coming out lesbian thing, like
Yeah.
it comes from a very personal stance of this is why I'm
Yeah.
doing it and whatever. And why would you be spouting like statistics and stuff unless there's some sort of agenda behind it? To me, it was very clear that she's
Yeah.
just a puppet and
Yeah. Yeah, I
unfortunate.
think that was pretty much one of the first things I did when I saw her coming out as
Mhm.
trans is I did, yeah, look at a compare and contrast of her coming out as a lesbian
Yeah,
speech
so did I.
versus that coming out as trans speech. And it is exactly
Did
as you
she
said,
even say like? Did she even come out and like do a video speech, or was it just a written thing? So there,
just
that
a
right
written
there is
thing.
like.
Yeah,
Mm.
just a written
I
thing.
also watched a interview of her with whatever that TV show Umbrella Academy.
Hmm.
Man, she is like really going through shit. I mean, I don't know her personally. If I'm just gonna judge off of that, which I am, I can just like sense something's up. She's just not herself, and she seems very depressed. Like, I mean, dark-sided stuff. So I'm just this whole movement is like capitalizing on people's mental illness and being like,
Yeah,
yes, you can get this, like really
yeah,
distraught and just really negative. And it's so crazy how they're just being taken advantage of. Like to me, like they're the most vulnerable, weak. I don't want to say weak, but I mean, like not strong. If you're depressed, you're not going to be your strongest self. So to have a medical industry and social media and all this stuff everywhere around you affirm your darkness is just so dark. It's so
yeah.
evil.
Well, and there's, uh,
They don't
on
care
the
about you as a person. Yeah.
no. Well, and on the one hand, we don't talk about autogonophilia a
No.
lot.
Yeah.
But autogonophilia is very different than dysphoria.
Yes.
A lot of
For sure.
these
Yes.
teens are experiencing dysphoria. They're dysphoric. They're dissociated from their body. They're experiencing dissociation. But the leaders of this movement, the money of this movement is coming from autogynephilic men.
Mm. I
And
forget that.
if you listen to detransitioner stories, like if you listen to Benjamin Boyce interviewing
Mhm.
Ben, who is Gen centric, I think. Um, you know, she, she talks about
Oh, that yes, that one's
being
great. Sorry.
being in being on Reddit, being in these LGBT groups with these older men, trans women, you know, and she's trying to be a trans man, and they're just really controlling and manipulating that whole story. But these, you know, these young people who are, you know, for whatever reason, feeling dysphoric about their bodies. Not, I mean, who enjoys puberty? It's not good.
Nobody,
It's not fun for
nobody. It's so
anyone.
dreadful.
It's
So
not.
awkward.
It's like,
So ugh,
I
it's
think
awful.
even like the most, like, you know, sort of cheerleader jock, you know, popular
Mhm.
kids still don't like puberty. It's just not
No,
fun.
no one does. No, yeah, no.
But I think what happens is, I mean, you know, this movement is, it just sets you up for a lifetime of cognitive dissonance, because you are constantly fighting against nature. Your body is always trying to revert to itself, you know, like, even like if you like friggin' get cut or are ill, your body knows how to try to heal itself.
Mhm.
Bodies have their own intelligence, you know,
Yeah,
bodies know how to help you. And, you know, if you're pumping yourself with hormones, your body is actually just trying to combat that. Your body's not like
100%.
good with it. You know, they have these surgeries, you know, one of, I mean, we know that they get hormones, we know they get puberty blockers, we know they get those, but they also get a lot of you know, medications that, you know, try to
Mhm.
tell their body not to resist this, because your body will naturally resist this process. You know, your
Yeah,
body can reject these surgeries. Your body can have very serious side effects.
very dramatic
And
surgeries, and the rate at which they go from hormone blockers to SRS, sex reassignment surgery. It's like a no one really talks about that, or they sweep it under the rug. It's pretty like guaranteed. Um, like it's just not, they're always like, oh, if you take hormone blockers or whatever, it's reversible. And I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know. I'm sure you've heard about that. The rate
yeah,
at which people continue on that path. It's
yeah.
unlikely that they're like, oh, never mind, it's not for me, because you're being affirmed everywhere, and you do feel a sense of euphoria from what I've heard. But that doesn't last long from, again, as I've
No,
heard.
no, because you have, I mean, gender is a performance, you know, gender is a performance, and it requires daily upkeep, you know. I mean, I don't know, like someone someone, you know, another feminist might like look at me here with my like earrings and lipstick on. I mean, that's a performance.
Mhm.
That's theater,
Yeah,
that's
it
art.
took effort to put this makeup on. It wasn't just
Yeah.
roll out of bed. I did not roll out like this.
But if I don't do it, I'm still very much a woman. You know, it doesn't, I don't have to, you know, whatever, you know, you know,
You just
most days,
are.
yeah, most days I don't wear makeup most days, you know, and I'm not
Mhm.
going to like be on camera. um, you know, but if your face to the world requires this constant performance and constant fighting of biology, I mean, that is, it's really, you know, it's setting you up for being in a mental state that is, you know, imposter complex, I guess I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you know that that's not what you are. You know that it's a lie. And, you know, for me, I'm just like, why do we have to have a lie? Like,
Exactly.
why? We don't have to have a lie. You know, boys can wear makeup, boys can wear dresses, girls can cut their hair short. We don't, why do we have to have a lie about it? You know,
And
if you
how
weren't,
would sorry.
well,
Go ahead.
if you weren't trying to lie about it,
Yeah.
there would be no reason for that cognitive dissonance. You would just be like, well, I'm a woman who dresses like this, or I'm a man who
Exactly.
dresses like this. Like,
Exactly.
why not? Why not
And
be that?
yeah, and if a man is going through the effort of putting on makeup and whatnot, and you look pretty convincing in like all areas to yourself when you look in the mirror, or you look down at your, areas like selected, like a wrist or like legs, and it looks feminine, and then you're like, oh, I have a penis. Like, how does that not cause dysphoria and like, or just like how does that like not trip your mind up? Just the sheer fact that that's going on. Like, of course, it's going to make you go, wait, but I'm a woman. But no,
Yeah.
what's this penis doing there? It's only gonna. It's like I can. How does that not encourage dysphoria? You know?
Well, exactly. And as I spoke to you a little bit about before, you know, we're always embodied. We're always in our body. We're never, there is no place that we can go that is mind only. And not only are we always embodied and in our body, but we are in constant attendance of our body. We're in this constant dance of participation with our bodies. Bodies cannot be ignored. Pain, it tells you that you have a body. Just uncomfortability, a hair in your eye tells me I have a body. Um, we're constantly navigating and negotiating our body. I have to reach and open a door. I know I have a body. I have to like adjust this mic. I know I have a body. And yeah, and like if you're pretending to be a man and you're getting a period, you have a female body. If you're a man who's pretending to be a woman and you pee with a penis, you have a male body. I mean, bodies are constantly asserting themselves. They're constantly reminding us of their presence. And um it's very hard in the long run to ignore your body. Your body is going to tell you what it is.
Unless your
um
brain gets so distorted and separated, and or I'm trying not to use the word illness here, but
well,
it just keeps. I was telling you that the other day about how I feel like once you just start doing this, oh, I'm actually say it's me, I'm actually a male. You don't just stay stagnant of like thinking that. To me, from what I've seen of these stories, people on Reddit are super very honest. It just goes downhill. Like,
yeah,
because I don't believe, starting off all that with just a simple little white lie, or not a white lie, but a lie. It doesn't
yeah.
stay a lie. It gets worse. Just imagine living a life of a lie. Like,
Mhm.
having people lie to you, you making people lie to you, you lying to the world and to yourself.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be rude here, but it's just like, how's that not going to destroy you and destroy the people around you? From what I've seen, they're just so angry and just so much real, like rooted, like, oh, it's
Well,
something
that's
serious going on. It's
that's the
not.
problem. I mean, the one of the other issues here is that this requires public participation. Other I mean, this to me, this is a secular religion. It's a religion. It's an ideology. It's a way of thinking. It has nothing to do with material reality. It's a religion. But if someone is, I don't know, a Christian or a Muslim or a Buddhist, it does not require anyone else's participation except their own. If someone, says the words, I practice non-attachment, or I have accepted Jesus Christ into my heart, if they say those words and use those words for themselves, it requires no participation on my part. No one is compelling me to do those things. And in fact, Christians, of course, they did go through a time where they had prayer in school, and people pushed
Mhm.
back because they did not want to be compelled to say prayer in school if that was not their religion. They didn't want to have to say the words God if that was not their practice. And I agree with that. I don't think anyone should be compelled to say the prayers of another group.
Mhm.
But that's absolutely what's happening here. Is the public is there's a push for the public to be compelled to participate in this. People are being called, I've definitely been called a bigot. I've definitely been called a transphobe. I've been called a Nazi.
Oh
And a
God, I don't
turf,
even
a
think the
turf,
people that are
a
saying
turf.
that, I don't think they know what they're saying, like what kind of connotation meaning that really is. It's just Yeah,
You
I'm
know,
like, do you even know what you're saying?
I know, yeah, I know. And I want everyone to be themselves. I want everyone,
Mhm.
that's, my background is being a theater educator. My whole mission
Yeah.
in my professional life has been to help kids to express their uniqueness. That was the work that I did. I had kids write their own plays. I didn't get kids to do like Peter Pan or Alice in Wonderland. I
Mm,
actually did play creation with kids because I wanted them to write their own
that's
stories
awesome.
in their own words and have their own expression and express their uniqueness. I am all about people breaking, cultural codes and expressing their uniqueness. I love that. But what I am not interested in at all is one, lying about my own biology, lying about anyone else's biology, being coerced into participating in anyone else's lies.
Yeah.
And
And
also,
guilt into it, like making you feel
no,
guilty. That's like,
no, 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 I'm not. I am absolutely not going to participate in this idea that men can feel like a woman. I mean, that's insanity. They have literally no point of reference. They
exactly.
have
Yeah. Can you expand on that about how
oops, I'm losing
what
my
their
mind.
thought? Oh, you're fine. What their
Yeah.
thought is on like, oh, I'm a woman. It's like, but you're thinking you're a woman from the place of being a man. So like, how
Yeah.
are you gonna know what you like? Their ideas of what a woman is are like Instagram thoughty, like super sexualized.
Yeah.
Typically, I'm just
Yeah.
like that's the one thing you think is a woman, like number one, like super sexual and
Yeah.
midriff, and I don't know.
I mean, if you are a male who has gone through male puberty, or even if you haven't gone through male puberty, even those boys who haven't gone through male puberty, whatever is happening to you, whatever dysphoria you feel, whatever dissociation you feel, whatever autogynephilia you feel, whatever you feel is a uniquely male experience. It has literally nothing to do with existing in a female body. There is, they talk about feeling female. Well, there are no female feelings. There's no emotions that pertain to me. There's human emotions. There's emotions are for all humans. The only feelings that are particular to being a woman are the functions and sensations of a female body. So those are the only things that are particular to my femaleness. Having a vagina, vulva, cervix, fallopian tubes, ovaries, labia, clitoris, period, menses, hormones, monthly cycle, eventually menopause,
Mm-hmm.
people who have endometriosis, all of those are the only feelings. Those are sensations.
Yeah.
So they're not emotions. Those are sensations. They're
Yeah.
physical.
Mhm.
Any other feeling is an emotion, and emotions, humans have the full range of emotions, and a male has literally no access. No, there's no access point, there's no reference point. When men tell me they feel like a woman, I am always asking, and how did you access that sensation? How did you differentiate? What
Yeah.
was your
Great
point of
question.
differentiation? When did you say, okay, this was my male feeling and I understood it, and then I differentiated that from a female feeling? I mean, and feminists online get hooked into the question of what is a woman. They try to
Mhm.
get the trans rights activists to define what is a woman, but I actually am always asking them to define what is woman gender identity. So if a man
Mhm.
says I'm a trans woman and woman is my gender identity, well, what's a woman gender identity? What's that gender identity that's a woman identity? What
If
is
they're a woman,
woman?
yeah.
What's
If they're a
woman
woman, why?
identity?
Yeah. If they're a woman, why are they saying trans? Also, if they are such a woman and they know what it's like to be a woman and they feel like a woman, why are they taking classes on how to walk like a woman, how to put on makeup, and like present as this stereotypical
Mhm.
woman that always wears dresses. Like, dude, I
Yeah.
barely wear, I mean, I barely wear dresses. I rarely wear dresses. Like, it's just so silly. It's just such a play, like
Yeah.
a costume. But
Yeah.
woman is not a costume, y'all. It's not a
Yeah.
costume.
Well,
I
and
mean, it's
wear,
just silly.
wear whatever you want, but like,
Yes.
the very
Yes.
notion of woman identity, that's sexist and regressive. That's based on stereotypes. That is a perpetuation of the very that's why I critique this. I mean, that's a perpetuation of the exact gender roles that feminists have been fighting literally since Hestia was fighting Aristotle. Like these are the women have ever since men have been writing about how women are. Women have been saying, no, that's your projection onto us. That's
Mm-hmm.
not accurate. That has nothing to do with my humanity or my body. That's a role projection, and trans woman is a role projection, and it turns when you turn the word woman into an identity category, it's just a bucket of the most regressive stereotypes. you know
100%. 100%.
I mean, woman is not my identity, it's my biology. I am a woman because that's my physicality. And the other argument I see from the trans rights activists a lot is the whole idea of they have a woman brain, that there's like such a thing as a woman brain. So, I mean, first of all,
Fucking
that
hate it.
also has been critiqued, the notion of the gendered brain. Cordelia Fine, Gina Rapon, Deborah So, also for the most part. I mean, she's a little
Yeah.
more, but
She
but they
did. No,
all
she was, yeah,
but they
size and whatnot.
all critique this
Hmm.
idea of there is no gendered brain. But one of my points that I like to make is it doesn't matter. Okay? So let's take your given. Let's say, yes, I agree with your given. There's such a thing as a woman brain, and you, man in a male body, have it. Let's just pretend that I even agree with that for a second.
Hmm. Hmm.
So great. You have a woman brain in a male body. Fact of the matter is, you still have no idea what it is to be a female because you don't have a female body.
Hmm. Yep.
Whatever's happening in
It's
your
true.
brain, you have a male body. Even if you
Hmm.
have a female brain trapped in a male body, you still have a male body,
That's
and you have
excellent.
no idea anything about the experience of being a female.
Hmm.
um you have still zero access point. There's just no access point. Your whole friggin' skeletal structure is a man. um
Yeah, you can only go off of like what you see and how you
yeah,
interpret it. Yeah.
and it just and what kills me too is just the silencing of this movement. The silencing of women who want to talk about our uniquely female experiences.
Biology. Yeah, it's insane. I feel like there's a lot of people not talking about this and aren't aware of it.
Yeah.
Twitter, Facebook. I'm not sure about Instagram. I'm sure I would not doubt it for a hot second.
Yeah.
YouTube. Suddenly stating what a woman is and a female biologically is considered hate speech, like
Yeah.
literally hate speech. The definition of a woman is offensive enough to
Yeah.
tear down a sticker that is a definition of a woman.
I know.
Um,
I know. It's ridiculous. It's just it's if it wasn't a very serious attack on our existing rights, on our rights to have boundaries around our body and consent and the right to say no to men, if it wasn't such a serious attack, it would be hilarious. I mean, it is partial. I try to laugh a lot because it is
mhm.
hilarious in a lot of ways, but but it's also it's a friggin' attack on our rights, and it's insane. And and I just sometimes I just want to shake these boys and men and be like, how fucking disrespectful to your mother.
I know, I know. So I always wonder about the relationship with your mother. Like, was your mother bad or awful or non-existent? I was actually just asking my husband that this morning. I'm like, how, the ones that, and it's funny, the ones that get us blocked and deplatformed, or not even blocked, excuse me, banned from these social media websites. It's not, from what I've seen, it's 99%. I don't know the percentage. It's men.
Yeah.
Like, men are like, no, you need to be quiet. You
Yeah.
can't talk about that.
Yeah.
Ripping down the definition of a woman sticker. It's like
Yeah.
it's a man being like, this is so offensive. It's anti-trans. What they want to say is anti-men. It's
Yeah.
anti-men. It's
Yeah.
not even anti-men. It's just
Yeah.
like we can't even talk about the definition of a woman. This is a problem. This is a
Yeah.
problem state of the
I,
world, not
I
just
mean,
America.
and in a very, I don't know if this is spiritual or not, but like women are amazing beings. Every female, animal is amazing. Female animals, including human females, we are the ones who gestate and birth and create human
Yeah,
life. I
how
mean,
strange.
we are the only ones that can do it, and it is a mind-boggling godlike capacity. I mean, it is god, it is truly godlike what happens. I mean, and I think that this has just been, it has just been incredibly devalued, and I think I mean, it is a devaluation of women. It's a devaluation of mothers. It's a devaluation of everything that has to do with all females, really.
100%.
It's a devaluation of nature and natural processes, and it is absolutely a cult like secular
No,
religion
you're
that's
absolutely.
coming after our speech, that's coming after our privacy and our safety. Um,
Relentless and unforgiving. Like, you
yeah,
must do this. If transgender, if trans women were women, why is this being repeated everywhere? Like, there
yeah,
was this video I watched on YouTube from some like big old all these people outside and some guy on the stage, and he was like, trans women are women. The audience was like, trans women are women, and they kept going back and forth, and I was like, oh, this is like mind control,
yeah,
repetitive. When you repeat
yeah,
something you get better at it. So I'm just like, no, like, this is so fucking obvious what it is. I mean, I guess it's not, because a lot of people are just so unaware,
yeah,
because it's just so hidden behind this, oh, it's a suicidal group that's oppressed, and what more oppressed than women, by the way.
yeah,
Some man tried to tell me that. I'm like,
yeah,
well, they just totally manipulate and pull and play with your empathy, sympathy strings, to get you to be like, oh, no one should feel that way, which no one should feel that way, but they're just the manipulation, and their very wise choice of words they use and the words they leave out is so, they are so clever. I will give
yeah.
it to them with that. Not like congratulations, but it is very sneaky, and I can totally understand why someone would fall for this and be like, "You're anti-trans, how dare you? Whatever, bigot, turf,
Yeah.
nonsense."
Yeah, I mean, it's sloganeering. I mean,
That's like I
it
love that.
it's a propaganda technique. It's, you that those mantras are used very specifically because, first of all, they're thoughtless. They mean nothing.
Mhm.
There's no analysis or position in them. They're repeatable, ridiculous. Um, they mean nothing, and it is absolutely advertising.
Mhm.
If something is true, you do not have to repeat it ad nauseum.
Not at all. Yeah.
You don't have to repeat, that you don't have to repeat that women give
Mhm.
birth. You don't have to repeat that the sky is blue. You don't have to repeat that parents should love their kids or kids should love their parents. Like, I mean, of course, there's ridiculous trauma situations that exist
Yeah, but it's just
sometimes, but
natural things
but
that are just
but these are also,
naturally
yeah,
existing.
naturally existing tendencies, and you don't have to drill them into
Mhm.
people, but you do have to drill into people that trans women are women because men are fucking not women, and that is a big fat lie. And
Yeah.
anyone who thinks that they are doing something nice by going along with it is sadly fooled. They've gone
Yeah.
along with that
100%.
cult thing. And I really try to remind people that my solidarity is with the global majority of women and girls,
Mhm.
because that global majority is still very much oppressed because of gender role projections and because of their sex. So, gender from the critique of feminism, of radical feminism, gender is both the why and the how of female oppression. So it is, we are oppressed because we have these roles projected on us, but these role projections are then also the how they are used to naturalize our lesser status. And we can see this, back in the time when women were not allowed to own property, when women weren't allowed to vote. There were reasons naturalized into the culture of why women shouldn't do that. We women, our brains weren't able to make voting choices, or we or reasons why that all of these reasons are naturalized by these gender role projections. And the thing is, these still exist. They haven't gone away. I mean, we have countries where, in India and Thailand or China, but basically oh, I wish I had it off the top of my head, but there's basically like something like 12 million quote unquote missing girls on the planet because of female infanticide, because of sex selective abortion and female infanticide. That happens because they're born female. Those infants that are killed and aborted sex selectively are not killed because of their identity choices or a way that they identify, and it's because they were born female. The females who have female genital mutilation, the ones who are sold in child marriages, the 8 million women and girls who are trafficked every year, basically slaves. If you want to talk about an existing slave class, females are an existing slave class exploited for their reproductive capacity. The women who find themselves in a situation of forced pregnancy. Rape is often for women. I mean, men and women get raped, even though 87% of rape victims are women and 98% of the perpetrators are men. Yeah. But even men who do get raped, they do not face forced pregnancy. And I'm not saying it's like a worse thing for them, but it is not. Women physically have to grapple with their bodies. I talked about this in an essay that I wrote on Medium. When I faced rape myself, the first thing I had to do, my rapist did not wear condoms, so I had to go get spermicide. I went in a cab, shoved it up inside me. If the cab driver was watching me, I don't know, but I had to before I could just go home, be in a shower, cry my eyes out. I had to grapple with my female body. And these women and girls globally, are oppressed because of their female bodies, because they're born female, and because of the role projection that they currently still face. The countries like Afghanistan and Iraq still have enforced dress codes. Women who can't go out in public without a man, who can't ride a bike, who can't drive a car. I mean, limited access to public life, can't hold political positions, can't be, professors, can't, this is still happening, and it's not because it's their identity choice. So there is so much privilege in this position to me. I find it very galling, and I find it really naive and privileged, the progressives who are just like, well, we just have to go along with the preferred pronouns to be nice. Well, that's not very nice to these global women and girls. And that's who I want to be nice to. I care about being nice to them. I care about their current lived oppression, their period poverty, their period stigma, their lack of access to education. That's who I'm fighting for, that global majority. And that's who I'm concerned with. And this whole dogma, it is a perpetuation of the very worst sexist stereotypes that we've always grappled with. And they're still existing. They're still happening. It's very much alive and well inside this ideology. And the fact that so many are blind to it, I'm just baffled that they,
I guess there's not enough people talking about it. But if you look at it like that, where, the people that are talking about it are being deplatformed, or videos or whatever being erased, or just they're being taken down, like to even get back on Twitter. I saw if you get like warned or something, you have to literally press like delete the tweet that was offensive to even enter your Twitter. So it's like, I mean that, but the whole like sissy hypno porn thing, the whole sissy thing is like, I know I want to like research that, but to me that's just so disturbing and offensive
Yeah.
on every level. But like even all
Yeah.
that is like, okay, this whole thing is content warning, but like presenting your holes and like extremely submissive and like it's just like infuriating because like I mean for men to even like get to that point where they're like this is a thing and this is a fetish and let's do this, it's just so unbelievably offensive that that's what they think like even any sort of class of a woman is, that it becomes a sexual pleasure thing where you're I just I
Yeah.
can't like
Well, I find it, I find it incredibly galling that that the cosmetic surgery industry is calling the male surgical alteration a neo vagina.
it's not a fucking vagina. It's a hole in your lower region. Like it mimics, I guess, but I haven't looked
It
at
has
the images because I'm
nothing
like,
to
I
do
can't.
with a vagina.
No.
A vagina is a functioning organ. It has multiple functions and sensations. It has muscle. It's self-cleaning, it's self-lubricating. It helps clean out your uterine lining. It aids in pleasure during sex. It expands and contracts during childbirth. I mean, it is multifunctional and dynamic. It's fucking amazing.
Yes.
It's an amazing piece of biology. And it is so demeaning that it is comparable to a man's open wound.
That they have to dilate every day, otherwise it closes up because it's your body going, this is not supposed to be there. It's an open wound thing. It's just like creating a hole somewhere in your body, and your body's like, this is not natural. I mean, doesn't that tell you everything? That you have to sit there and dilate with a lubricated stick to stick it up there, which is so high maintenance, by the way. I mean, like that whole, I know you saw that video, I'm not gonna mention it, but
Yeah.
the maintenance, like you have to maintain it. Like it's not a
Yeah.
natural thing. You have to make sure it doesn't close. Otherwise, if you don't maintain it, it will close.
It is. It's just a hole, and that's like one of the most derogatory things that men have called women. They refer to women as holes.
Front
And
hole? What the
front
fuck?
hole. I mean, if front
Which
hole, fuck
wouldn't
hole.
this
I
be a
mean,
front? Okay, whatever.
yeah.
I'm just like, it's so stupid. Hole? Like, I mean, how many holes? What the hell?
But
Come
a
on.
vagina is not just a hole. I mean, it
Oh.
has it just has it's so incredible and dynamic, and it makes me sad that other
Yeah.
women go along with this. It really breaks my heart. I mean, I've definitely lost some friends over this, and it breaks my heart that thoughtful women don't see through the misogyny in this.
And it's not
You
always
know,
dumb women too. It's
no,
it goes
no,
with anything cult like you don't have to be dumb, and it's
no,
frequently very smart, educated,
yeah,
well-off people that get
yeah,
captured by cults in
yeah,
general. So you're not immune to it, to be groomed and preyed upon.
yeah,
You can be smart, you can be dumb, it can just be a human, you can be captured by it. That's a fact. Yeah,
yeah,
people, I think that I'm not saying that my friends that I've lost are like stupid or dumb. I feel like the women that would go along with it, because I was like that before I woke up to it. I saw someone who I knew them on social media, and they were posting selfies of like looking like a woman. And I've come from a background of like being a black sheep of a family. I was never popular or like super nerdy in high school. I just kind of floated along. But I definitely am very protective of people that are not as popular or awkward. I try to make an effort to
yeah,
talk to them. Not that I'm like pitying them, but I can recognize that. I know what that feels like. So I saw this person posting photos, and I could tell they were just lonely and sad. I mean, I could just see it in their face. So I would be like, "You look amazing." But it didn't take me long to realize that they kept incessantly posting selfies, which, number one, anyone that does that is something's going on in their head there, like they need
yeah,
attention or something. I'm not saying they're a bad person, but I was like, well, okay, well, I'm not doing this thing anymore because they just want attention. I'm not gonna be able to be there for this person at every 2 hours. It's like, you look great, you look great. So I think that a lot of the handmaidens or people that go along with it are like, these people really need help. Like, look at them. They get fooled by these statistics that are never backed up by any source. They can never get their numbers right, by the way, like,
Yeah.
percentages. And I'm not saying that these people don't commit suicide or there isn't abuse or violence, but they use these very particular words to tug on your empathy strings because anyone would be like, oh my god, violence, that's very severe.
Yeah.
That's just how I see it. I think it's people that are like originally trying to protect someone who they think is not manipulating them and playing the
Yeah.
game because that's definitely a thing. Like if men I don't even want to say that because I don't want to. If people can realize how easy it is to manipulate someone, then why wouldn't they? If they
Yeah.
can.
Yeah. Well, and it is hard to be non-conforming in whatever way. I mean, I grew up in a fundamentalist Christian household, and I was, and culture. I mean, for church. I mean, um and it was hard to be non-conforming in that environment. And even now there's a lot of like non-conforming things that I do that aren't like necessarily even apparent. Like I don't shave, so I mean it's not apparent until I go to the beach, and then just not even often, not nobody really hardly notices, but every
Yeah.
once in a while you get a like, oh, she didn't shave her armpits. But I mean there's it is hard to be non-conforming, and even it's just like, I mean, it's hard to be non-conforming. I mean, going up against this ideology is non-conforming, and it is
Yeah.
hard. I mean,
Mm.
and I feel for people who are non-conforming with their style. But that's pretty much what it is to me.
Mhm.
You're non-conforming with your style. You've chosen to be non-conforming in a medical capacity, so
Yeah.
you've chosen to take a medical route to enhance your non-conformance. But for me, I do not see why this requires any special legal provisions.
Yeah.
This again, it is a self determined category. It is very different from LGB,
Mhm.
which is based on sex. It's
Mhm.
based on sex, and the rights and provisions that women have are based on sex. So these provisions are all based on something that is physical, measurable, and I don't even there's that you can Google trans. There's like no good definition of it. You will find in any organization that you search. If you search mermaids, if you search Google, if you search how Biden describes it in his 100-day plan, you will find all kinds of definitions. There is no set definition. There's millions of definitions of how this is even defined. The point being that it is an undefinable category, and it's a self-ascribed
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah.
To say that you are this could mean anything, and it mainly is about non-conformance, and
Mhm.
I think it's great if you're non-conforming. And some non-conforming people have been huge, incredible stars. I mean, look at all the male musicians that we've had who are non-conforming. I mean,
Mhm.
like in every year, every generation we have them. We have the Kurt Cobains, and we have the who's the new British guy, the Harry Styles,
Oh
and
yeah. I think it's all for
I
attention
know,
and money and
I know
eyes. Like
it doesn't matter,
boring
but
kind
but we
of
have but we have like the Princes and the Bowies, and
Boy George.
non-conformance is frigging amazing, and sometimes it's hard. Sometimes
Mhm.
people who are non-conforming face challenges, and and I have a heart for people. Again, I love expression. I want
Mhm.
people to express.
Same. 100%.
I like changing my hair. I like wearing big jewelry. I like expression. I like theater. I love theater. I love theatricality. And I would encourage anyone to play and explore and be playful. But it absolutely does not change anything about your body. You cannot be more or less your body.
Yeah.
You are your body. There's no more or less male. There's male. There's no more or less female. There's female. And people a lot of times will try to bring up those with DSD conditions or intersex conditions.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, those conditions, DSD conditions, are sex-specific conditions.
Yeah, from what I've little research I've done is that you can have like two parts of a male or female type thing but it's like one bodily function works. Like you're either one or the other, even if you have both components. It's like
it's mostly external abnormalities.
right.
It's external abnormalities, but your internal workings are still male or female, and they are sex specific conditions in that they affect males and females very differently. So there are the female DSD conditions, and then there are the male DSD conditions. There's about 40 known conditions, and they are all sex specific conditions.
Yeah. What does DSD stand for?
Differences of sexual development. It is sometimes called disorders of sexual development, but I believe the DSM changed it to differences of sexual development. And that is the more, that's sort of the better term now. Some people still do use intersex. I know intersex advocates online who call themselves intersex advocates, but mostly they use DSD because
those
it's
things where they always change the terminology because somehow transsexuals is offensive, or somehow these things just become once it becomes dated, it somehow magically becomes
because
offensive.
intersex is confusing, and it confuses the issue, whereas differences of sexual development,
that's true.
That's a lot more accurate to what's happening. And what it is every human body is organized around a reproductive function. Whether you're able to fulfill that function or not, your body is organized around that function. Again, this is from your skeletal structure to your internal organs to your hormone levels. And so you can have a body that is either organized around the production of large immobile gametes, which is a female, or you can have a body that's organized around the production of small mobile gametes, which is a male. And it's entire body organization. You know, they like to, in a way, a lot of the TRAs bring it down to genitals, like so that if you somehow cut off your genitals or change your genitals, but you cannot become the other sex. There is no way to go from producing eggs to producing sperm. There's no way to do it. And there's no in between. There is no spectrum. There's no spregs.
Oh God, yeah.
There's no
research that one because I'm like, I don't want to go there. Yeah, if you get a phalloplasty and you get a faux penis thing, it's not a real penis. Like it just isn't.
There's no third gamete. There's no third sex. There's no other sex. There's males and females, and that's it. That's all you got.
Yeah. What about the dissolving the ego?
Yeah. I mean, that's absolutely another thing that gets me. In any sort of like practice that you might do that's like maybe a Buddhism or meditation practice, or even a psychoanalytic practice, any psychoanalysis that you do, it's really about shutting down the ego, silencing the ego, letting go of the ego. I mean, and letting go of identity attachment. Identity is itself external. The self is much more than an external identity. I went on this, one of my experiences is I went on this beautiful women's retreat, and that was one of the components, was sort of going through this guided meditation and letting go of these identities that we carry around with us. And some of those identities were relational identities, like letting go of daughter and sister and auntie and friend. And, these are identities that I carry about myself. But they are not me. They're not the true me. They're not the inner self of me. Those are just relational identities. There were other identities that were a little harder to let go of because they have to do with my personality, like being a teacher or a researcher. These are things that I'm like sort of, I feel compelled to do all the time. Writer. The hardest one that came up was artist. I was like, that came up for me. And I was like, no, but like I am an artist. I am that. I am that. And as I went through the meditation and sort of listened to that, what I would call inner voice, I was like, no, that is just another external thing. It's external to me. It is not the depth of me. There's so much more depth to me than that external identity. And, to me, it's such a shallow ideology, because the entire ideology is set up to be about identity attachment. And that this identity attachment requires constant validation, an external validation. And again, any meditative or true spiritual psychoanalytic practice is about building internal validation. I should be the only one who needs to validate myself. I don't need to validate myself by my external career, by my relationships, by my wealth, by my beauty, by my, I don't know, whether or not I'm a mother, whether or not my I don't know, my fitness level. Like all of these are categories by which we judge ourselves, by which we judge one another. And these are external validation categories where when we can get caught in the trap of culture, we can get caught in the cultural mantra. But those are external validations. And the truth is, for me to be my best self, I should not require those external validations. I should not require a validation based on my career path. I should not require external validation based on my looks. I am in truth, I am the only person who can validate myself. But this whole religion is about constant external validation, constant external validation. And I thought of this earlier, but it didn't come up at the time. But back to that sloganeering, the trans women are women, that coercion to get the public to participate with this. Chomsky talks about that in terms of culture, in terms of consumer capitalism. Like this is a very consumerist ideology. It's all about consumption, because you have to consume those hormones. You have to get those surgeries. You have to change your face. You have to change
Wear
your
that t-shirt,
wardrobe.
buy that flag, whatever.
And the propaganda machine at work in this, Chomsky talks about the manufacture of consent. And that's how they get us. That's how this ideology works on us. It's it's coercing our consent, and it's happening in an insidious, repetitive way.
Mind control.
It
It's
is
just
mind
mind
control.
control.
Yeah, it is absolutely mind control.
Yeah, it's such a problem if you're able to look at it like that, that it becomes a thing where you need other people in the world around you telling you how you should feel about yourself. Like, yes, you are a woman. Like, you no longer exist in yourself. It's just, I mean, even if we're not talking about the transgender stuff, if you live in this world of always needing attention and being like, you look beautiful,
Yeah. The role of therapy should be to not require external validation. I mean,
No,
a
you
big
shouldn't need
thing that
anyone.
a big
Anyone.
thing that we go through, for example, a big thing that a lot of people go through is requiring parental approval and parental
Mm,
validation. It's kind of the number one external validation that we all go
mm.
through. Most of us with, with only a medium fucked up families. I mean, most people who have, just, if you're not in deep trauma, but if you're just having
Yeah.
that normal strife, you are seeking parental validation. And I definitely remember I went through it, and there are some things about my familial religion where my my oh gosh where my father was like, like, you have to be more submissive, you have to do this to be kind of a proper woman. And it used to trigger me, it used to like
Mm,
get to me so much. And I thought, if I could just get to the place where I wasn't, if what he said was like so ridiculous to me, because if he said something to me like, I see little green aliens floating all around you, I would laugh. I would just laugh at that. And I would be like,
mm,
nah, that's ridiculous. That means nothing to me. But because I, grew up with the ideology, it triggers me because it's
mm,
part of the programming that I was raised with. So there was that fight in me to have his validation, but
mm,
I didn't want to perform the things that were required to get his validation. I mean, I would say I think we're in a great place now, but at the time, I think we both had a lot of angst about it. But ultimately, the process of therapy should be to come to a place where you are internally validating yourself, and that is the only validation you require. If someone, I mean, misgendering is being called a freaking hate crime. I
and
mean,
you get
that's
like actual fines. If I don't know what the New York City laws are about that, but I've heard
I
something
mean,
about that, like
people are
actual
people are
money fines.
people are trying to twist it in that direction, which is freaking ridiculous. Because if someone called me a man, it would be so ridiculous to
I'd be
me.
like,
I would
no,
just laugh at it. I mean,
yeah,
I don't. What do I care if you call me a man or not?
exactly.
It changes nothing about my experiences. It changes
Yeah,
nothing about my feeling about myself. I don't. I
you
don't.
didn't think that, they thought that. It shouldn't
Yeah.
concern you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And hopefully that's where we get with all of our things. If someone was like, you're ugly, I would be like, well, it's your opinion.
yeah,
I don't feel
exactly.
that way about myself. That's not how I feel about myself. and
Yeah,
and or if they're like, you're poor, or I don't know,
your
you don't
art
know how,
sucks.
yeah, your art sucks. I would be like, yeah, that is
That's
your
your
opinion.
opinion. That's okay.
You
All right.
okay, like, all right, like, and then there's always going to be certain categories that are more triggering than others.
Mm.
The more, again, that's, again, the more you identify with
Oh
something,
yeah, that's
the more
true.
you are going to be triggered by it. The more, like, if I did truly identify with a piece of art, and and someone didn't like it, that would be like, like,
That is
why
such
didn't
a
they
great
like
point.
it? Like, I like it so much, I identify with it. The more we identify with something, the more potential we have to be triggered when people don't validate it. But if we were the most strong in ourselves, if I was like truly powerful in myself, like on a good day, we all have good and bad days, but on a good day, I would just be like, you know, fuck that noise. Who cares about what that person says?
Yeah, so all this shit is encouraging like your vulnerable self, affirming like not having confidence. You mentioned recently something that was profound to me is describe, not prescribing words.
Yeah. So one of this is actually a video that I have up on my YouTube channel where I kind of go into
Mm.
this in depth. But
What's your
you know,
YouTube channel name?
known
Can I search for
heretic.
it? Okay.
It's just yeah, known YouTube,
Yeah.
known heretic. Yeah. Um, one of the things I well, one of the things that I call myself when people I'm going to do this the long way. But when a lot of people who accuse me of hate or bigotry, whereas where I don't hate anyone.
No,
I want people to
without
express.
hate.
No,
No.
but I do call myself a non-participant. So I do not participate in what I call this secular religion. So um, that's how I would frame it for people. And choosing non-participation is not hate. There's so many religions that I do not participate in, and even I could just not participate in. I don't know, like believing in a keto diet or something, or I could not participate in Scientology, or not participate in Buddhism, or not participate in flat earthers, like I can be respectful of people even when I don't respect their beliefs. You can be respectful to people without respecting what they believe in. And I don't respect this, and I'm pretty clear about that. I do not respect an ideology which I see as sexist and regressive and attacking women. So no, I don't respect it, but I respect people. But I'm a non-participant, and what I also say is I the way that I choose to use language is descriptive. So when I use the words man and woman, boy and girl, I am describing, just the same way that when I am using the word animal and mammal and primate, I am using those words to describe a certain kind of function and organization of a body. And those are words that all describe, and they, in the animal classification system, they get more and more specific as you go. The word plant does not describe my body. The word animal describes the kind of body that I have. The word reptile does not describe my body. The word mammal describes the kind of body I have. And no matter if I choose to call myself a reptile, I am still warm blooded. I still have fur and not scales. I still, gestate young inside my body, not lay eggs. If I had a child, I would produce milk. That word mammal describes the functioning of my body. And the word woman describes the functioning of my body. It describes. So I use accurate biological language that describes form and function. And that's what those words mean. I refuse to perpetuate gender. I do not project gender roles. I don't project personality onto those words. I don't project that there's a certain way a man should be or a certain way a woman should be. You can have any personality in a male body. You can have any personality in a female body. And I say boy, girl, and I say man, woman, because female could describe any mammal, or even there's many female non-mammals. Female could describe a lot of things. Woman, adult, human, female is the word that accurately describes my physical experience. So I choose to be accurate with those words. And what the gender words do is they prescribe. So they're saying, if you turn the word woman into an identity, you are saying you have to be like this to be a woman. You've turned the word into a word that's describing what's already going on into a word that is prescribing qualities onto something. So you could prescribe those qualities onto a male body or a female body. But when you use that word as an identity word, it's a projection, it's a prescription. It's telling you how you have to be a woman.
Yeah.
But there is no right way to be in my physical body. I am in my physical body. And no matter what, no matter these linguistic games that you want to play, I am in this body. A male remains in his physical body no matter how much hormones you take, no matter how many of your genitals you cut off. You're just as much male as you were ever male. You are the same amount male as you ever were. You don't ever become more or less of it. And and I think using those words to describe function is far less triggering. It's just function. It's just form and function. Just like everything that's what science does. It describes the form and function of everything in the universe, down to the atom, down to the electron in the atom. We everything has a boundary, everything has a material being, and everything has a form and a function. And that is part of living in a physical material universe. We don't live in some sort of, I don't know, Isaac Asimov made up gaseous nebula where there is no form and function. We don't live in a spiritual heaven-like plane where everything is spirit. We live in a physical plane where we have form and matter. Everything has form and function. And the business of science is to describe the specific, unique form and function of everything. I mean, that's how chemistry works. That's how physics works. That's how we even get these hormones that people take to change their body. We can do those things because we know how form and function. We know how to manipulate form and function.
Yep.
But the form and function of having a certain reproductive capacity doesn't change. I have used I've been called mean for using what I think is a really neutral metaphor, but I use the metaphor of the oven and the refrigerator. An oven warms and heats things. A freezer cools things down, keeps things cold. So, however you modify that oven, or if your oven is broken, like a lot of people will say, like, oh, are you saying a woman without a uterus isn't a woman? Well, a woman without a uterus, first of all, if you have a hysterectomy, you are having a very female experience. If you've gone through some sort of a hysterectomy, that is a very uniquely female experience. That is an experience a man will never have. That is a uniquely female experience. And a woman without a uterus does not become a man. A man without a penis does not become a woman. A broken oven does not become a refrigerator, and a broken refrigerator does not become an oven. An oven is still an oven, even if it's missing a part. A refrigerator is still a refrigerator, even if it's missing a part. It still has, even if it cannot fulfill the function of its form, it still has that form. It's still made up of that form. And that function is the only thing that form can do. That form cannot fulfill a different function. Just like a female body can never fulfill the function of sperm creation. That's the form and the function are entwined. But even if you cannot fulfill the function, that's still your form. Your form is still your form. Feminists get accused all the time of being genital fetishists. Whatever.
Oh, yeah, that whole you're focusing on genitals a lot. I'm like, oh my god, what are you talking about? Like, I love that they turn it around, or just these arguments are just so asinine, so silly. Like,
Yeah,
come
and
on.
And we're the ones who are saying you can have whatever friggin' genitals you happen to have and be whoever you want with them, have whatever personality you want, have whatever expression you want, have whatever behavior you want, have whatever
Yeah.
passion you want.
Yeah.
And your genitals do not define you. And they are pretty much the ones saying you are defined by your genitals. So
Exactly. That
if
whole
you
thing is
are
like, what? I
if
don't
you are
get it.
behaving in a way that doesn't match your genitals, you have to change your body. And to me, this is the most dangerous thing that we're teaching kids, and this ideology of born in the wrong body that we're teaching kids is just ridiculous. We should be teaching kids to question a culture that would tell them there is a correct way to be a female or a correct
Yeah.
way to be a male. They should be challenging that culture, not conforming and saying, I mean, if you look up, if you Google, how do I know if my child is transgender, which this
God.
is a question that parents ask when they're confronted with
Yeah.
their kids. If
Yeah.
you look that up, you will see the most regressive stereotypes being repeated. You will see,
What?
my daughter wanted to have short hair, or my son wanted to have long hair, or my
He just
son
really
wanted
went
to
for
play
the,
with.
the pink, the chair. He's a girl. Like what? He
Mhm,
went for the pink
mhm.
stuff. The pink stuff? What? Oh my God. Sorry.
So you'll see, if you look at how this is being taught to parents and kids, you'll see it is nothing but
Mhm.
stereotypes. It is nothing but stereotypes, and the
Yeah.
most regressive sexist stereotypes. And uh feminists, this is sort of an aside, but going to my point,
Mhm.
a lot of people, I mean, and it's in Google right now. If you do a Google search, I do not like the Google definition of feminism.
Tried by a
um
dictionary.
yeah,
Motherfucker.
but
I'm so
but
good at this thing. Well,
feminism, yeah, oh God, look at that, oh, look at that. It's like
yep.
classic, that's
I know.
classic. Feminism is in fact not an equality movement. I mean, whether or not you agree with the term the patriarchy or not, feminism seeks liberation from the patriarchy. Feminism does not seek equality within the patriarchy. So the patriarchy is what controls women through their reproductive capacity and exploits them. Equality would look like women raping just as many men as men rape women. Equality would look like women beating just as many men as men beat women. Equality would look like, uh, you know, um, you
I know
know
what it's about. Yeah.
adult women sexualizing little boys. You never see that. I mean, I saw,
Nope.
I think I showed you that the most disgusting post the other day of these adult men just like
Oh yeah.
being disgusting about Greta Thunberg, whatever you think about her or not. Like
Yeah.
it's adult men like, ooh, like saying the worst things about her, and you never see a group of
No.
adult women
No.
like want saying that they want to rape or go after a young boy.
Very
That just doesn't
vicious.
happen. But that's
No.
what quote unquote equality would look like. So we're not an equality movement. We're a liberation movement. We want liberation from that friggin' oppression. We want um, reproductive liberation, from reproductive exploitation and control. That control that I was talking about that's still going on in so many countries, where female genital mutilation, reproductive exploitation. There's surrogacy camps in other countries. I mean, even in this country, teen pregnancy is a huge problem, and that is a means of reproductive control. That
Mhm.
it one of the leading causes of death of girls from ages 15 to 19 is frigging pregnancy in the United States of America. That is a means of reproductive oppression. Boys of the age 15 to 19 do not face that. That is not something they face. So, but the other part of that liberation is not just liberation from reproductive exploitation, um, but it's also liberation from enforced gender roles. And this is, I mean, that's why we used to call it the women's lib liberation movement. It's a liberatory movement. It seeks freedom. It seeks freedom from these regressive roles. And that's what I still want. Many feminists, myself included, call themselves gender abolitionists. I want to abolish gender, screw gender. Men and women can behave however they want to behave, do whatever they want to do, have whatever personality you want, dress however you want.
Yep.
And we don't have to project roles onto other people's bodies. And that's what I say, when people are like, you're mean. And I say, I'm not I don't want gender projected on me in terms of that. What's the phrase? Like, do unto others as you would do unto yourself. I don't want anyone projecting gender onto me. So why would I project gender onto anyone else? I don't want to perpetuate that. I'm not going to perpetuate a system of regressive stereotypes. I will not participate. I will not perpetuate it. I will not be complicit in my own oppression. And my solidarity, as I continue to say, is with the global majority.
Yeah. Amen. Yeah, that's excellent. I think that's a great ending point. That was wonderful. Thanks for joining me. Where can we find you? Where can the people find you in the interwebs?
So I'm on YouTube. I'll send you my link so you have that. My YouTube channel is KnownHeretic. I'm pretty much KnownHeretic everywhere. I'm KnownHeretic on Twitter. I'm KnownHeretic on my Facebook. I'm KnownHeretic on my Instagram. I will be getting a Patreon eventually.
Yeah.
So then I'll be that. But that's and on Medium. I'm on Medium, and that is also my same handle.
Yeah, I'll have in the captions down below and whatnot.
Yeah. So and I hope to be having on my next thing for my Twitter is to have a gender series. I'm gonna be looking at the history of gender, because this gendering of women by male scholars has been going on for millennia. So I'm gonna start back all the way at Aristotle and go through, Gustav Le Bon and Darwin and Freud and just look at the history of how this has progressed and then kind of compare that to what's happening right now.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much.
Yay.
Catch you guys later.